Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rikah Kadash. Now, I'm going to go with the spirit and talk about the end of the world, World War III, nuclear missiles, UFO'S, and just get it all out the scriptures. Now, when you're talking about World War III, it's two verses that talks about these wars. First, you got Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. It says, "One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter." So that's one plus two. Okay? We're talking about World War III now. 1 plus 2. Revelations chapter 11, verse 14, it say the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. So that's 1 woe plus 2, that's 3. Then you got the second woe, and it say the third woe come quickly. So that's 3 woes, meaning 3 wars. World War I, World War II, and World War III. Now, let's get this second coming of Yahushua, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ. And you're going to get it out of Revelation, and then we're going to go into the Old Testament prophecies. Now, Revelation 19 lets you know clearly. But I'm going to start with chapter 19, verse 10, it say, "And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See you do it not. I am your fellow servant and your brethren that have the testimony of Yahushua. Worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy." So the testimony of Yahushua is what the prophecies is all about. It's talking about his first coming, his second coming, his death, resurrection, what his purpose was. And verse 11 going to tell you about the second coming. This Revelation 19:11, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse." That go to UFO, so-called chariot. "And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he do judge and make war." So it's going to be a war when Yahushua come on the scene. And what is he coming to do? Let's get that in Daniel. What is Yahushua coming to make war and to do? Let's see here. Daniel chapter 2, verse 44, it says, "And in the days of these kings," so in these days, with these kings, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. So while these kings are ruling, God gonna set up his kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. "And the kingdom shall not be left to other people," meaning it's gonna stay with the Israelites, God's people, God of Israel. "But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." How is it going to break in pieces these kingdoms? World War III. You see that last woe. It say 1 woe has passed, and the second one, and 2 more woes is coming thereafter. Then it said the second woe has passed, and now the third one is coming quickly. So you got 3 wars that's going to pretty much happen. So you get down to, let's see here. I got Daniel. Let's get Joel. Joel, the first chapter, it say, verse 2, it say, this is Joel 3:2. "I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat." So that's the prophecy before anything pop off. It was going down in the valley of Jehoshaphat. and he was gonna bring all nations in there. Now let's get that in Revelation 16. It says, let's start at verse 14. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them together to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. So God Almighty said he was going to gather the nations in Joel, and the Apostle John on the island of Patmos, he says he sees the same vision where the nations was going to be gathered together for the great day of God Almighty. Okay, so you got Joel, you got Apostle John. Now let's see here. Ezekiel seen the same vision. Ezekiel chapter 38. Ezekiel chapter 38, it says, starting at verse 2, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach, and Tubal, and prophesy against it. I'm going to jump down to 4 to get to the point. And I will turn you back and put hooks into your jaws, and I will bring you forth, and all your army, horses and horsemen, all them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with buckler and shields, all of them holding swords. You see, then you get the name of some of the countries. He say in verse 5, Persia, that's Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, and all of them with shield and helmet. Then in verse 6 he say Gomer and all his band, and the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his band, and many people with thee. You see, them the nations he's gathering. When he say he's gonna turn them back and put hooks in their jaws, that means he's gonna pull them into the war. Now when you look at Revelation 17, Revelation 17 and 17, it says, and God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will. You see, that's putting hooks in their jaws. And to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So God is putting into their heart, putting a hook in their jaws, and gathering them together to the great day of God Almighty. And that's what Revelation 16 is talking about, where it say these spirits was working miracles, and they went these spirits of devils deceiving these nations where they think they going to war, but they don't know they being gathered by the Most High. You see, they looking at it as they just going to war against their enemy, but they're being gathered, deceived, and gathered together so they can war against the Lamb. So Yahushua, who they even call Jesus Christ, can destroy them. Now let's get the second coming in another prophecy. Isaiah, book of Isaiah talks about this second coming. First, in Isaiah 63, starting at verse 1, and it's gonna match up with Revelation. It said, who is this that come forth from Edom? So that's who's gonna be the main enemy when Yahweh shall come with his second coming, with dyed garments from Basra. This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in his greatness of his strength, that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. So it's asking the question, who is this that cometh from Edom? And when they throw that from in there, sometimes it could be come to Edom. Who's coming to Edom to make war? And it's talking about his garments. So let's go back to Revelation 19 and see when he come, what is the situation gonna be? And I'm gonna get straight to the point. Revelation 19 and let's see here, going right back with 11 when it talked about he gonna judge and make war. Revelation 19 and 13. And he was clothed with a vesture. And that word vesture goes back to garment or apparel, dipped in blood. So he's saying his garments is dipped in blood, and he's coming to judge and make war. And who's he coming to judge and make war? Who is, in verse Isaiah 63, who is this that cometh from Edom? So this is Yahushua. He's making war with Edom. And we know who these individuals is, and we got some more identification in Revelation 19. When you go to starting at 18 of that same chapter 19, it says that ye may eat the flesh of kings. Who is the kings on the earth? You see, you know who the kings on the earth. He coming to make war with them. And the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. Verse 19 is the key, saying, I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth and their armies. So the kings of the earth and their army, who has the greatest army of, and who empire is we in? We're in the fourth beast. You see, in the fourth beast, he has an army. That's the greatest army. And that's, you know, America has the greatest army. It's has embassies or bases, army bases, in 70 countries, and it has over 1,800 army bases in 70 countries. And to let you know how powerful this army is, the other army bases in the world is only 35 army bases. So America has 800 army bases, and the other nations and kings has 35 army bases. So the whole war is gonna be with America. And we know who's in America, who's the majority of the government making the call, the military captain. Most of them are so-called Edomites that's running it. Now they hire certain Israelites, 2/3 Israelites, that, you know, that don't know their identity. They just a servant and a slave to these Edomites. They get a paycheck from these Edomites to serve in their army. You see, but the Edomites is running the government. They got 500 congressmen and the Congress and the legislators, about 500. And then you only got 50 so-called blacks or possible Israelites in the government, giving their 2 cents, but really they just there to get a paycheck, because those 400 Edomites that's running the government, they gonna command that Pentagon to do what they want to do. Salaki. That's why these Edomites, that's why these Edomites are starting a space force, because the government, Trump, he was the president, but it was the Congress that came up with this idea, and the elites told the Congress to run it, because it's a two-horned beast situation where England and the UK, those rich Edomites over there, telling these Edomites in the government what to do. That's why I say the kings of the earth. So public conversation got you touching cloud. Ain't no visitation. So let's go back to Joel. These Negroes out here. Okay, Joel chapter 3. Get some more detail. Chapter 3, it says in verse 9. 3 verse 9. Let me let him go by. Okay, Joel chapter 3 verse 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your sword, your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. There cause the mighty ones of the mighty kingdom to come down, O Lord. Now, that is letting you know that the nation of Edom is going to be attacked while these nations are gathering together. This major military of America, the home base of America pretty much, is going to be attacked by their allies. That's another situation with World War III and with the nuclear missiles. Because the nuclear missiles, to get that real quick, let's go back to Revelation chapter 9 and identify some of these situations. Alright, chapter 9, let's see here. Because it describes the nuclear missiles in chapter 9. And I'm going to just take some parts out of here. It says, chapter 9, and let's see what verse 6 says. Okay, let's go with verse. Let's go with verse 6. It says, in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. So the days before the missiles hit, men gonna be going through some bad tribulation. And that's the great tribulation, Jacob's trouble, that Jeremiah 30:7 and Revelations 24:12 talks about. But it says, and let's see here, in verse 9 of chapter 9 of Revelation, saying they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron. So it's describing a certain thing that had breastplates of iron. And it said the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots of many horses running to the battle. So there was something powerful that had breastplates of iron. Something powerful that was like iron, but they sound like heavy chariots. A bunch of chariots running to the battle. Very loud, pretty much. And so we know that's them nuclear missiles. Now, to go along with that, you got, Zephaniah? Let's get Zephaniah. Zephaniah described the same situation. Zephaniah described the same situation. Zephaniah chapter 1, that was talking about the great day. Let me make sure I'm talking about Zephaniah. It might have been Joel. Yep, let's go back to Joel. He was talking about Joel. Yep, and Joel chapter 2, in the beginning of Joel chapter 2, I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what it's talking about, these same thing. Now it talks about the nuclear missiles in Joel chapter 2. It say, a fire devoured before them, and behind them a fire burneth. So these things got fire all around. And so when you see here in verse 4, it said, this in Joel chapter 2, that one was verse 3. Now verse 4, it say, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses. You see, that's what the last one said. It was had a breastplate of iron and sound like horses and chariots running to the battle. And it say, the appearance of them was the appearance of horses, and the horses so shall they run, like the noise of chariots. Now that's what Revelation just said. Revelation 9:9. It said, like the noise of chariots and horses. Let's go back. 9:9. Let's read it again. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was the sound of chariots, and many horses running to the battle. Now let's read this one again. But Joel 2:4, it say, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horses, Salakia. The appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so they run, like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains, shall they leap, like the noise of the flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as the strong people said in a battle array. So it's identical. And this is talking about the day of the Lord. We're still in Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2. Let's see here. Okay, there you go. Chapter 2, verse 11. It say, and starting in the middle, it say, for the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide in it? So that's what it was talking about in the day of the Lord in World War III, the great day of God Almighty. You're going to have the nuclear missiles destroying America and some of these other places of the Edomites. Now let's get the UFO'S, and I'm going to close out 23. And I'm going to just get the deliverance in Revelation. Even though I got the chariot with Yahushua was coming on, the white horse. That white horse was a chariot. Like in the Independence Day when you saw the chariot come out the sky. That's where they got that from. And Ezekiel, the 1st chapter, talks about the UFO'S. And here in Revelations 11, verse 11, it said, verse 12, it said, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So that's when they sing that song, Sweet Chariot, swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. See, that's where you got the enemies looking at them with a chariot, pick them up and carry them home. So we were singing that way back in the beginning of our captivity in the 1800s. We was singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot back then. You see, so we knew that the chariots was coming. And ain't no telling, some of them might have even seen the chariots on a regular basis. They might have been seeing the chariot. And they was just saying, swing low. Come carry us home. We see y'all. But come on and carry us home. And so you got World War III, the so-called UFO chariots, and the nuclear missile, all in the Bible, letting you know that this is the time that we living in these last days. That we gonna be delivered. Let's get that in Joel, how what is gonna happen when them UFOs get here in the middle of the war or the end of the war. Joel 3 and Joel chapter 3 verse 6. No, verse 7, Salakia. Behold, I will raise them up out of the place whether you have sold them. So how is he gonna raise us up out of this place? With the chariots. You see, just like Elijah in 1 King, he took Elijah up in a chariot. He said the chariots of Israel. That's how we coming out of here. And Habakkuk talked about the chariots of salvation in chapter 3. So these things this is the faith of the Bible, the hope of the Bible. Like it said, this is let's get that in Revelation. Revelation 13, chapter 13, verse 10, it say, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So the faith of the saints is being delivered with the chariots of Israel, the chariots of salvation, and our enemies beholding us, seeing us go up in the chariots, while the World War III is breaking loose. You see? And let me get the last major prophecy before I close out. Same chapter. 13. What was that? The faith of the saints. What else is the faith of the saints? In that chapter, it talks about the mark of the beast. You see, it says in 13:16, and he calls all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their forehead. 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So unless you get that mark of the beast, you ain't gonna be able to buy nothing or sell nothing. That's that microchip they want you to put in your hand so you can swipe it across the scanner and buy something when you go in the store. And they trying to create that as we speak. So you got that in 13, the so-called mark of the beast, and yeah, that's gonna be the jump off. The mark of the beast, World War III, the nuclear missiles, and then the chariots right before the nuclear missiles come and destroy America. He's gonna bring us up out of here before he destroy the place. But I'm gonna leave it there. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.